welcome to Duke Origami. Whoop, that's my logo. I'm Conrad, so my hair's ready, my eyes ready, my hands are ready, and my moves are ready. So here we go. Introduction. I know what you're thinking. Let's skip it. And now for the convenience of the special you ladies and gentlemen, I got my face out of the way and you can see the special Kawasaki rose I have here. It's a standard Kawasaki rose, and the main objective of this tutorial is to show you how to make the standard Kawasaki rose. And then you can take it to the next level and make the modified Kawasaki rose that I have here. It's the same one as the one I showed you before, but it's nice to remake them. So let's cut to the chase. I am going through the pre-fold crease pattern really quickly, just to show you the way I make. Now you see a grid of 16 smaller squares inside a bigger square and 2 diagonal creases. And what we're going to do here now is to make 2 more creases along this way, and a diagonal and the other diagonal. So here we go. So we just did this and that. Next, the diagonals. Find your diagonal, go across the diagonal, and you notice here like 1, 2, and 3 diamond shapes. And if you look at the horizontal diagonal of these diamond shapes, that is the crease line you want to fold it across. So let's do that. And the same thing for the other diagonals. And we open up. Here is the basic crease pattern to begin with, and this is also the same for the modified ones I have. Next, we fix up the corners. Notice that you're facing the back side here. You're folding the corner to the corner of the little square at the end. Do you see this? This is the corner of the little square at the end, and you're folding this tip to this tip, or you can call it the intersection between the 2 outermost creases. Now we're gonna make a diamond in the center. This will be the basis of the Kawasaki twist that we'll make, which gives the basic structure of the rose. So across from the original diagonal that you had the corners filled in, and across again. Now we're at 1/4 of the area of the original shape. And at the tip here, you'll notice a very tiny square. Here, we want to fold across the diagonal of this tiny square. So fold inward. Like that. And use your beautiful or ferocious nails to make that crease sharp. Open up. Here is the basic shape that we'll start with. Okay? We're gonna make the Kawasaki twist. Observe carefully. This is beyond the description of words, so you're gonna have to use your eye instead of your ear here. I am gonna make a little dimple of the diamond shape which is created at the center. And the trick is you have to use your other hand, in this case my right hand, under to support. You see how I enforce the edges here? And once you create the edges, the creases, and you sharpen it, you make the 2 sides, the 2 faces meet. And once you did that, you reinforce the rest of the crease that you made before. as I am showing here. And if you place it right directly where you look down, you'll see a cross. Do you see the cross? Like nah, nah. And you'll notice there are still another crease line hiding behind here, as well as the other one on the other side. That we also want to enforce it. To enforce the crease, you just simply use your force with your little hand here tucked behind, doing the tricks here. And same thing on the other side. Okay? And then when you go back to the top view here, you'll see what I simply did is I enforced it like that to make a counterclockwise twist. And then if you lay it flat on the surface here, hopefully you'll see the way I see it. It's a good time to pause and take a look on your paper. I will open here on the left side, and hopefully you can see the diamond shape standing out like this on the front, and enforce the crease line. And later on, I'll flip back here, and hopefully you see the same shape I do. Open up all the way till this intersection here. The intersection in the center of the diamond, not on the upper end of the diamond, in the center here, where you'll feel like a force that prevents you from opening totally. So you open up to here naturally and enforce the edges. There you have the twist. On the back you will see a diamond shape, and in the front you'll see some sort of interesting fan-shaped figure. Next we proceed. Now we're gonna turn the model into 3D, in three-dimensional shape. You're gonna see that the model is no longer lying flat on the surface. You'll be hanging in air, and you probably will be working in air with your hand holding the model. So again, summon your hand. Boop. Okay. Here, I'm looking at the front side, and I'm messing around with one of the flap here that you created. There's no particular noun to describe this, but I call it a flap. And if you move your orientation like this, as I do, it'll be easier for me to instruct you. So on one of the flap, use your index finger to lift it up until it's 90 degrees to the surface. And with your other hand, go under and try to create a trapezoid shape like this, and reinforce the edges. So, did you see that? That's a 2D front view, side view, top view. You do the same from the other three. For each of them, you do the same. We have this in 3D shape now, and we're gonna create the petals on the outside. We're gonna work a little bit on this side, on each of the four corners, and here we go. I'm gonna show you in detail on how to work the outer petal for each of the sides, or corners you can call it. If you position yourself the way I am, and you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing, I will hold my right hand at this place and turn this into a side view, a front view, however you call it. On the back here, you'll notice there's almost like a channel here, like the water channel that you have. I'm going to create the outer petal by folding a line along this edge. So as you follow this edge, you will spontaneously create this 45, 45, 90 degree triangle. The 45, 45, 90 degree triangle I'm talking about is here to here to here. Enforce the crease, flip back to the front side, fold outward to the front. And look at my tricky little index finger here. It's actually hiding behind there, supporting me as I make this crease. And this little thing here will be the outer petal. And next, since we already made the crease, now we can let go for it to be easier on the other part we'll be working on. We're gonna create the folds that will make the rows come together as a single solid unit as opposed to being open and flat like this. And how to do that? We're gonna have to shrink the edge to make it stand out. And the way we do it is, if you look at what I'm looking, and you put your hands about here on one of the corner, open it, you see that? It's about a 90-degree into the desk surface. And I'm tracing out this square here, if you see. Just look at what I'm tracing. If you don't see the crease line, you should see two little rectangles that makes up the square. And I want to fold across the diagonal of this square. You see that? And now it's my other magic index finger working in the back here. Make a crease. And then next, from the crease you already made for the outer petal, you open it gradually and naturally. And you force the edge on this little hat. And there you go. And then next, you'll notice there's a flap upward here that's hanging above. And if you bring it down, you'll realize it almost overlapped completely with the layer right below. And it seems to be making a diamond shape, a square diamond shape. And if you lay it on top of the layer below, as you see in this angle, and you go to the back, you'll see there is a 90-degree triangle that's not supported by a layer below. And that's when you make a little hook. You base your hook on that, which creates a very nice and firm base for the rose. And now we are done for one of the corner. We're gonna do the same for the other three. Here, you are seeing the shape of a rose here, beautifully and brazenly standing in front of you. Okay, so now we're looking top down with the rose brazenly standing in front of you. I don't know if you are still not excited, and if this is the first time you make it, you probably will be excited, and I'm excited. If you reinforce all that we folded, which should gradually, naturally come together, since the crease line is really supportive, you will use your hand and hold it like a cup. And wherever the four little triangle that we made the lock from, you return the lock to its original shape and make it nice and firm like this. Next, if you see here, you'll see this triangle on each of the four corners, the one I'm tracing out. If you collapse this triangle at 90 degrees to the surface that it was originally on, like this, and you make one line on top of the other, you realize the fourth one can go under the first one, so each of them interlock on each other. And to do this, you want to open up the first one a little bit, lift it up, and nicely and secretly tuck the last one under the first one, and put them together. And after you do that, you can enforce the the base a little bit like I am. You can see the square base here. And this will be the folding part of the rose, the basic Kawasaki rose. Now we're done folding, we will just be shaping the rose to make it look like the rose. On your outer petal, you can easily open it like this. You can open as little as you like or as much as you like depending on the time of the year. If it's in the winter, they probably will be different kind of shape. Then the center part, you'll also open up. I'll use my magic index finger, tuck it in here. In a counterclockwise fashion, at the clockwise motion though. Open the center up like this, a little bit, nicely. And you may call this complete, but what I usually do is I give it a little bit of a curve to the inner petals. And not only that, I also make a little inward folds on the side of the petal to give it a 3D feeling. Fold it inward a little bit. And the same for the other two. There's symmetry in this rose, but if you give it a slight variation in the way you fold it out, curve it, then you'll look more natural. Okay, so here is the basic Kawasaki rose you have. What you will notice is that what you make may not look exactly like what I have here. You may have your center all the way flat out and open like that, or you may realize that yours is just simply not as rounded as the one I have. Like you may have it looks like this, you may have like open like that. Here's a little trick you can do to fix the center, and in fact I do that usually. You should open up the base that you have the interlock mechanism on. Unlock it, and in the center here you'll notice there's the original diamond shape we created when we did a twist. What we could do is we can create a little ninja star by lifting up the edges, pulling it toward the center like this, and you realize the front part will actually turn bulkier and more full as a rose. You see a little ninja star I made. And before we unveil the secrets, why don't we close it first? Yep. Bring out the first layer, put the fourth layer down in the first layer. See, now it's bulky again. Looks more complete and natural. So this completes the tutorial to the basic Kawasaki rose. If you can make yours look like this or even better than mine, then you are ready to go on with other modifications and new structures I would like to share. Okay, so we just made the basic Kawasaki rose here. Now we're gonna proceed onto the different modification that I have, and here I'm going to show you the Conradian mod that I have, the one that I came up with the modified outer petals and the interlocking mechanism at the base. So I have already made a pre-crease pattern here, the grid lines and the diagonals, as you can see. So here we go. Okay, you may notice that I already made a video on this modification before on megavideo.com, and I posted under the description of my original video. But I like to make a new one to make the series new and fresh. So here we will start with the Kawasaki twist that I showed you previously, and hopefully you'll remember. But before that, I like to note that the difference in this mod is that the corner here on each of the corner we don't make the flap flow in like this. We're gonna keep it open like a square, and we're gonna jump straight ahead to the twist. Here, we're facing the front, and it's a corner here that looks a little bit different than what we had before. But that's the only difference we have so far. Next step is exactly the same as the previous step. We're gonna lift up a layer, so now the model will become three-dimensional. And the way we do it is to open up one of the flap, and then bring up this rectangle. Now, before it was a trapezoid, like this, now it's a rectangle. Use your finger, go to the back, and bring it out. And reinforce the edges you created. Next, we'll jump straight into rounding the rows and make the rows more stand up and three-dimensional. And if you will remember the step that I showed you before, where you take one corner and make it point straight into the surface of the desk, you will see this square here. And we're gonna follow across this diagonal of the square, just like we did before. Use your index finger, make the crease on the back, as well as use your thumb to reinforce it in the front. You'll notice the flap above it seems to be overlapping and take up like half the area of the square. But we're gonna keep it open because we're gonna be constructing something on this side. Okay, so now we are going to be working on this side here, a big rectangle, and we try to create a flap that opens up nicely, that it will embrace the rows as it completes. It will become a very beautiful and elegant outer petal. And how do we do that? Here I need to show you some coordination here. If you follow where I'm tracing, I'm tracing a 2x1 rectangle, and if you flap open the outer petal, you'll see here's exactly another 1x2 rectangle right below it. And if you follow the crease line, the mountain fold, along the diagonal of the rectangle here, as I'm showing you, and continue extending it either straight or at a curved angle, you'll be forming a little hat at the top. Flatten the hat and reinforce the edges. Then you just create this outer petal. This is the modification that I'm talking about. To show you again, I like to emphasize the variation and the sizes of the hat. So again, follow along the diagonal of the 2x1 rectangle. And if you want to make the hat a little bigger, in a sense that'll make the outer petal a little bit more visible, you can just simply make it angle up. Instead of making it straight up for the top of the hat, you make it a little bit to the side on your right. And as you flatten the hat, you'll realize the size of the hat is much bigger. And later on, when you open the rows, you'll see this nicer, relatively nicer texture to the outer petal. Before, we had a small hat, and now we have a bigger one. This is a part that varies a lot. It's up to your personal preference. You can have a uniform across all four corners, but I personally just like variations. Hey, now we are back again at the point where the rose is near completion. And here comes the hardest part of this model and this modification that I have, is how you interlock the base. And so because it's slightly more difficult and confusing, I'm going to do it in slow motion again. And hopefully my slow motion is indeed slow. If you try to grip it like a cup as I did before for the original Kawasaki rose to keep the shape and the edges as I'm doing now, you'll see that I did not have the locking at the corner because the paper, the edge on here prevented me from doing this. And it's the same on all four sides. There's just no way you can push down. The paper is preventing you from going through it. So the trick here is to have one of the flap go down first. And then second, you'll realize this flap, as I close it down, there's probably not enough paper. So I want to squeeze a little bit more paper to cover the area. And as I do this, I'm going to make the tip here reach the other end. Imagine this is a square. I'm going to make this corner meet the opposite corner. And as you do this, you'll realize you can fold inward towards you and make another crease pattern here along this three-dimensional miscellaneous floating unfixated part. And as you do it, you want the end of this edge approximately meet the edge in the same length. So same length from this end to the tip here, and the same length from the end to the tip. That way, that ensures a perfect pocket here that the other flap can go into. It may sound confusing, but we can do it again. For the next one, bring extra paper up, fold the tip of this corner to approximate this area as much as you can. And as you fold, you bend this triangle, this original flap toward you to compensate the physical barrier by enclosing the extra paper in this pocket, tuck it in. And as you can see, the length from the end of this outer edge, the layer on top of the base, to the corner, and the layer above the base to the corner there, they are about the same length. Make them meet. Same thing again. Bring extra paper forward. Fold in the triangles, the 45, 45, 90 triangle. Create, pinch it, create this soft crease line here. Make the triangle bend towards you, and make sure that the edges of the layer above and the layer above the base to the corner are about equal distance. And last one, bring extra paper for you. Fold the 45, 45, 90 triangle. Pinch, create this soft crease here, and make it come towards you. And notice in this case, the distance from the end of this edge to the center and the distance from the end of the opposite edge to the center is a little bit greater. That's fine, according to my experience. And then once you reinforce all of these interlocking pieces at the base, you should tuck in one after another into this little pocket that I created. To make the interlocking mechanism as best as it can be, I suggest, as you can see this triangle here, make a very soft, not standing out mountain fold here. So when you tuck it in, it tends to become bulky as opposed to be flat. And you do the same on the next. Tuck it in. You realize it's getting bulkier and bulkier. But then that way it actually fits in better. Tuck in the last one into the pocket of the first one. Make it firm. And at this point you can either press down a little bit to enclose the hole in the center, or you can just leave it open like that. It'll be good for a stem if you wish. and that completes the folding parts of the modified Kawasaki rose. And next, it will also be about shaping and making the curves that you like. I like to start with the outer petals, where I'll open the flap of one of the petals a little bit so I can see the cover flap of the other petal. I like to make it curl out and be very careful at the sharp angle here where it's easily torn. What I will do is I will push it down to make it less sharp and then make the curl. As you make it curl out, the paper will be slightly stronger to being torn. And what I do here is I make a little outward fold to even strengthen it further. More outer folds here. Make it nice and curvy, and you can do the same on the other 3 corners. Next, we work on the inside, and guess what? It's exactly the same thing we did before. Tuck my little index finger into one of the inner petal and thrust inward in a clockwise fashion to open up the petals in the center. And I like to do it in a counterclockwise order. And here you have the center open, and now you curve the inner petals. Curve it from inside out like I did before. And I usually make the curvature more drastic toward the end. Pinch a little bit as you make a little mini mountain fold on the end of the petals to make it more curly and more realistic and more three-dimensional in nature. Same thing. And here, the folding is basically done. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the specific parts of this modification and why I did this and why I chose it. Right now you're seeing a rose as the center open up and non-bulky. If you want to make it bulky, like the original one here, you can do the exact same thing. And it looks just as if it's like that. The advantage of this modification is that the outer petal is larger and you actually reach over to the other side to embrace the rose like a complete bud. Whereas on the original one, you only see a very fat and small rose petals that are just simply dropping out and down. That does not convey as much elegance. And secondly, the interlocking mechanism of the bottom one makes it slightly bulkier and less flat, which gives it a more realistic looking. And third, the corner of the base here I'm pointing at makes the roses bulge out. And if you look at the shape of the bud, usually it starts out with a sharp top and the bottom part is actually fatter in a real rose. And this actually resembles more of that. Whereas you look at the before, it tends just to be less obvious because the petal seems to be in a way. Whereas here, you can see specifically this bulkier part that makes it nice, more attractive in shape. And that's the end to my modification tutorial. This is the original modification I have and I came up with. And of course there are more tricks to it, so keep tuned. For a rose of a real size, you realize the center is somewhat empty. But then if you make it too small, such as this, then you will realize it's too small to be a real rose. And what do? Here's the old trick that I shown you before. You can always put a smaller rose inside the center of a bigger rose, and it gives it a brand new refreshing look. Before, we just simply make it bulk out and look more like some content in there. And now you put in a smaller rose that's exactly the same as this one inside the bigger rose, and that makes it, just simply nice. So in this series, we created 2 Kawasaki roses, one the original one and the other the modified one. But that's not all. There's still a lot of modification and new variations to it.